I crossed over from the Chinese border in Hunchun to the Russian border in Kraskunov on 2nd of June 2016 with the intention of doing a solo drive on the Trans-Siberian Highway from Vladivostok to St. Petersburg. To say that the border crossing itself was much more challenging than the drive would be no exaggeration. The border post between Hunchun and Kraskunov is not meant for passenger vehicles, and therefore I had to make a lot of arrangements at the last minute to make sure that my border crossing was done without too much of hassle. The car could not be driven through the border between China and Russia, and therefore I had to load the car onto a freight truck, take it to the Russian border for examination, which was done over about 3 hours. And thereafter the vehicle was released, and then the truck took me to the nearest Russian village, which is Kraskunov. My contact from Vladivostok, who had come to the border village, arranged for the unloading of the Champion from the freight truck. I felt very comfortable once the Champion was safely lodged on the road. A small crowd of about 8 to 10 people had gathered around the freight truck and near the car to see the spectacle of the offloading of the car onto the road. Once it was done and the formalities were all completed, I thanked every one of them and took leave of them, and my contact from Vladivostok piloted me all the way from Kraskunov to Vladivostok. I reached there very late in the night. That did not matter because the comforting factor was that I had reached the start point of the Trans-Siberian expedition. I had scheduled an extra day in Vladivostok before starting the Trans-Siberian expedition. A few things needed attention on the spare day, such as the servicing of the car, obtaining a new SIM card that would serve me well on the Trans-Siberian Highway because I did not know the language, and most importantly, the insurance papers for the car had to be obtained. That almost became a showstopper. Agency after agency turned me down because I did not have the Russian translation of my car papers. Finally, in the nick of time, just as offices were closing down, a young girl in a new agency, maybe a guardian angel, helped me finish the documentation because she said that she was reading a book written by an Indian author. Finally, the D-Day arrived. At 5 a.m. on the 4th of June 2016, I left on the first leg of the Trans-Siberian expedition from Vladivostok to Khabarovsk. I covered the 760 kilometers quite easily in about 10 hours. Two incidents fill my memory of the day. The first was when I was waved down by a traffic squad for having exceeded the speed limit of 50 kilometers. But when I told the elderly gentleman, who knew a smattering of English, that I am from India, he said, "Oh yes, India, Russia, very good friends," and let me go. The second was in Khabarovsk. Out on the street looking for food, I came across the kiosk of Khadir, who had migrated from Kyrgyzstan 8 years ago. When I introduced myself as a person from India, he immediately burst out into the song, "Mera Juta Hai Japani," and said, "Who can forget Raj Kapoor?" He later gave me a freshly minted coin of Khabarovsk, saying that it was a keepsake to remember my visit to Khabarovsk. Truly, goodwill knows no boundaries. Khabarovsk is the start of the Amur Highway. The 2,100 kilometer stretch up to Chita is considered to be one of the most challenging in the entire Trans-Siberian Highway. The early part of the roads were fairly indifferent, but then I covered the 675 kilometers in about 8 hours. The highlight of the day was actually chasing down a Trans-Siberian freight train, a humongous python, which was running at about 100 kilometers per hour. In Belogorsk city, when I was waiting for a traffic signal, a group of young kids in an open car put their thumbs up and shouted, "India forever." Wow, that moment made my day. On the third day of the Trans-Siberian expedition, I was supposed to do slightly less than 900 kilometers from Belogorsk to Mogocha. But as the day panned out, I did 2 days in one day, which meant that I drove nearly 1500 kilometers from Belogorsk to Chita. Why did this happen? When I reached Mogocha, around 2ish in the afternoon, the Yalta innkeeper told me that he did not have internet and therefore he could not take the booking from booking.com. No amount of persuasion helped me find a place in that inn for the night. Without arguing any further, I decided to set course for my destination for the next day, namely Chita. Since I was traveling towards the west, I had enough daylight hours on hand, and I reached Chita at about 8:30 in the night, and it was bright sunlight even then. What a day it turned out to be. Nearly 1500 kilometers in slightly less than 18 hours behind the wheel. I was not tired, but I was very happy that I had saved a day, and that too on supposedly the most difficult part of the Trans-Siberian Highway, the Amur Highway. It was time for day 4 of the Trans-Siberian expedition, the day on which I would be traveling about 660 kilometers from Chita to Ulan-Ude. The marathon drive of the previous day infused so much of confidence in me, and I was sure that I would be able to do over 1000 kilometers a day if the need arose. I feel compelled to talk about the condition of the roads on the Trans-Siberian Highway, at least to the extent that I have experienced so far. Considering that these roads take a battering during the winter, and it sees a temperature variation of more than 60 to 70 degrees between the winter and the summer season, I must admit that the roads are in fairly decent condition for the harsh climatic condition that it withstands. Ulan-Ude is the third most populous city in East Siberia. After checking into the hotel, I spent a couple of hours walking around from the Russian Orthodox Church to the city center. Besides the ornate Russian Orthodox Church, the Tsar gates and the massive bronze head of Vladimir Lenin really caught my eye. It was a beautiful evening spent in a lovely city.